You ever have one of those mornings where everything is just too perfect, and you know something's about to ruin it? That was me, sitting on my porch with the hot mug of coffee, watching the early sunlight break over the lake. The water was so still, it looked like glass. Birds were chirping, the pines were swaying gently in the breeze. And for a moment, I forgot the rest of the world even existed. Then I heard the distant hum of an engine, slowly getting louder. Now, out here in the middle of nowhere, the sound of a car coming down my gravel road is rare. Usually, it means a delivery truck or a lost tourist. But when I saw the shiny white SUV turning into my driveway, my stomach sank. I recognized that car instantly. Karen. She pulled up like she owned the place, swinging her door open with that air of self-importance you can smell a mile away. She stepped out in pastel-colored athleisure, her sunglasses big enough to block out the truth, and her hair in a perfectly styled bob that screamed, "I have complaints." I didn't even have time to get up before she was marching up the porch steps. No knock, no greeting, just perfect. "You're here," she said, like we'd been in the middle of a conversation I forgot about. "This will work out nicely for all of us." I blinked. "I'm sorry." "What will?" She smiled like she was explaining something to a child. "My girlfriends and I are coming up tomorrow for the weekend. Girls' spa retreat. This cabin is perfect for it." I almost choked on my coffee. "You're what?" "Oh, come on," she said, stepping into my porch space like boundaries didn't exist. "It's not like you're here every weekend. You're barely around. And the HOA's been talking about how underused this property is. It's just sitting here, and it's such a waste. We thought," she stopped to glance toward the lake, inhaling dramatically, "we thought we'd put it to good use." Karen said slowly, "This is my cabin. I don't rent it out. And I am here this weekend." That sugary smile froze. Then, as if flipping a switch, her expression turned into that tight-lipped, wide-eyed look of disapproval every HOA Karen seems to perfect. "You know, the community's been saying you're not exactly friendly. You never come to events. You never participate. Don't you think it's time you gave back a little?" "Karen," I repeated, "this cabin isn't in your HOA's territory. It's private property. My family's had it for decades." She tilted her head, fake sympathy in her voice. "Oh, you poor thing. You don't realize even if you're technically outside the boundary, you still live close enough to be part of the spirit of the community. This cabin should be shared. You can't just hoard it." I laughed. "I shouldn't have, but I did. I'm not hoarding it. I'm living in it. And the answer is no." Her nostrils flared. She took a deep breath through her nose, then muttered, "You'll regret this," as she turned and stomped back toward her SUV. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke to the sound of multiple engines crunching over gravel. I peeked through the blinds and nearly dropped my coffee mug. 3 cars were parked in my driveway. Women in yoga pants and floppy hats were unloading tote bags, coolers, and even what looked like a portable massage table. And there was Karen, clipboard in hand, directing them like she was hosting a reality show. I stepped outside. "Karen, what are you doing?" She turned, plastering on a smile. "Don't be dramatic. We'll only be here 2 nights. We'll clean up after ourselves. You won't even notice we were here. You will leave," I said firmly, her voice pitched higher. "Stop being selfish. We're just trying to have a little fun. Honestly, you're acting like you own the whole lake. I own this property. You can't just show up with people and move in." One of her friends glanced at me, clearly uncomfortable. Karen, are you sure?" "Quiet," Karen snapped at her. Then, turning back to me, "If you're going to be difficult, I'll just call someone who can handle this." Before I could respond, she pulled out her phone and started dialing. Her tone changed instantly, smooth, fake, sugar sweet. "Yes, hello? I need an officer out here immediately. I'm at my family's cabin and there's a strange man refusing to leave. I think he's dangerous." I froze. She wasn't just being entitled, she was lying to the police about me in my own home. She hung up and gave me that smug little smirk. "We'll see you still standing when they get here. Now, I know the deputies in this county. They're not bad people, but in a he said she said situation, things can get messy." "And Karen, She was betting on exactly that. 15 minutes later, I heard the crunch of tires again, this time with flashing lights bouncing off the trees. Two sheriff's deputies stepped out. One older, tall, calm. The other younger, scanning the scene like he was already trying to figure out who was lying. Karen ran toward them, all panic and drama. "Thank God you're here. This man broke into my family's cabin and refuses to leave." The older deputy turned to me. "Sir, can we see some ID?" "Absolutely," I said. I handed over my driver's license and the laminated copy of my deed I keep for emergencies. He studied it carefully. "This says you're the sole owner," he said. "That's because I am," I replied. "My grandfather built this place in '74. Karen doesn't own a nail in the wall." Karen's smile wavered. "That's not true." "The HOA," the younger deputy cut her off. "Ma'am, this property isn't under the HOA. It's outside the boundary line by a good quarter mile. County records confirm it." Karen's face turned red. "You're really just going to take his word for it?" The older deputy's voice was firm. "We're taking the county's word for it. Ma'am, you and your friends need to pack up and leave right now." That's when she lost it. "This is discrimination. You're all men. You're protecting him because of some boys' club mentality." Her friends shifted awkwardly, some avoiding eye contact, others quietly starting to gather their stuff. I leaned against the porch railing, watching her sputter. The deputy stayed calm but firm, escorting her toward her car. She kept throwing insults over her shoulder: selfish, unfriendly, bitter, lake hogger, like I was going to crumble under the weight of her disapproval. But all I felt was relief. As the last car pulled away, the older deputy looked at me. "If I were you, I'd put up a no trespassing sign." "Something tells me she's not done." He was right. That night, as the sun dipped behind the trees, my phone buzzed with an email from the so-called HOA president, full of thinly veiled threats about community harmony and resource sharing. I didn't reply. Instead, I locked the gate at the end of the driveway and set up a motion-activated camera. Karen might think she can bully her way into anything she wants, but this cabin isn't hers. And as far as I'm concerned, it never will be. You'd think after being escorted off my property by two deputies, Karen would lick her wounds and move on with her life. But Karen? Oh no, if entitlement were an Olympic sport, she'd be taking home the gold medal. For the next 2 days, I thought maybe she had gotten the message. The lake was quiet again. I sat on the porch, drank my coffee, even went out fishing. But the whole time, there was this itch at the back of my mind. Karen wasn't the type to accept defeat. I didn't have to wait long to be proven right. On Tuesday morning, I woke up to the sound of something metallic clanging at the end of my driveway. I grabbed my jacket, stepped outside, and saw a man in a neon safety vest bolting a shiny new private road HOA members only sign into the post. Excuse me," I called out, walking toward him. "What do you think you're doing?" He turned, startled. "Karen said the HOA was extending jurisdiction to cover this area." "Just doing my job." I nearly laughed. "Buddy, this road is on my deed. You can't just slap an HOA sign on it like it's some kind of territory claim." The poor guy looked caught between me and whatever wrath Karen would unleash if he failed. "You'll have to take it up with the HOA president," he muttered before driving off, leaving the sign behind. I yanked it out of the ground. If Karen wanted a war, she just fired the first shot. That afternoon, I drove into town to speak with the county clerk. I wanted to make absolutely certain that my property lines and the road were clearly documented. The clerk confirmed everything I already knew. My cabin, my land, my road. HOA had no authority, but when I got back, there was a new wrinkle. A folded note was taped to my front door. In Karen's neat, passive-aggressive handwriting, it read, "It's not too late to do the right thing. The community is watching. Share your cabin, or we'll be forced to take further action." No signature, no explanation, just that smug little threat. I was halfway through crumpling it up when I heard tires again. This time, it wasn't Karen, it was a sheriff's cruiser. Deputy Collins, the younger one from before, stepped out. "Hey," he said, "I just got a call from..." "Guess who?" I sighed. "Karen?" He nodded. "She says you've been vandalizing community property and harassing Her. I gestured toward the porch. Do you see any community property here? He grinned. Yeah, I figured it was nonsense. Just keep your cool. She's trying to bait you into making a mistake. That's when it clicked. Karen wasn't just being stubborn, she was running a campaign. If she could make me look like the unstable, antisocial neighbor, maybe she thought she could rally enough people to pressure me into giving her what she wanted. The next week, her tactics escalated. First, I caught two teenagers snooping around the edge of my property, clearly sent to check out the cabin. When I confronted them, they mumbled something about the community and bolted. Then, someone dumped a bag of trash in my driveway. Not random trash, carefully chosen stuff, like old beauty magazines and empty wine bottles. A little too on the nose for coincidence. I installed more cameras. This time, I got her at 11:47 p.m. the following Friday. My motion sensor triggered. The grainy footage showed Karen herself, in a hoodie, sneaking up my driveway and dumping something by the gate before hurrying back to her SUV. I called the sheriff's office right then and there. When Deputy Collins arrived, I showed him the footage. He let out a low whistle. Well, that's about as clear as it gets. You want to press charges? I hesitated. I'm not a vindictive person, but this was beyond annoying, it was harassment. Yes, I said. She's crossed the line. The next morning, the deputies paid Karen a visit. I wish I could have seen her face when they told her she was being charged with trespassing and illegal dumping. But of course, she didn't take it quietly. 2 hours later, I was in my living room when I heard shouting outside. I opened the door to see Karen pacing at the end of my driveway, phone in hand, live streaming to what looked like a Facebook audience. There he is, she screeched, spinning the camera toward me. This is the man who's destroying our community. He thinks he's better than all of us, keeping this beautiful property locked away from the people who deserve it. I stepped down onto the porch. Karen, you need to leave. You're trespassing again. Oh, am I? She said, smiling in a way that told me she thought she'd found a loophole. This is public access now. We voted on it. You can't vote on something you don't own, I said flatly. The camera stayed on me as she ranted for another 3 minutes, spewing half-truths and outright lies to whoever was watching. Finally, Collins showed up again, shaking his head as he walked toward her. Ma'am, you've been warned, he said. You need to leave the property now. This is my community, she shrieked. You can't keep me away from what's rightfully ours. It's not yours, Collins replied calmly. And if you step foot past that gate again, you're going to jail. That shut her up, at least for the moment. She stormed off, muttering about lawyers and taking this higher. I wish I could say that was the end of it, but a week later, I got a certified letter. Karen had filed a civil complaint, claiming emotional distress and demanding shared use of my cabin as part of a community agreement. It was laughable and expensive. I hired a lawyer who had the case dismissed in less than 10 minutes. The judge didn't even try to hide his irritation. Miss Parker, he said, you have no legal standing here. Stop wasting the court's time. Her glare could have curdled milk. After that, she finally seemed to back off. Maybe it was the charges. Maybe it was the humiliation in court. Or maybe she just found a new target. Either way, my cabin stayed mine. My porch stayed quiet. And every time I sit here with my coffee, out over the lake, I can't help but smile. Because if there's one thing Karen learned the hard way, it's that you don't mess with a man on his own land.